Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The movie Bait 3D. A dangerous tsunami strikes the city of Kamlo, submerging it completely, leaving only a very small number of survivors trapped and surrounded by sharks from all sides. Our movie begins in Australia on one of the sea beaches. We see Rory heading to wake his friend Josh from the car. From their conversation, we understand that Josh is about to marry Tina, Rory's sister, soon. Josh wakes up and goes to the beach to spend some time with Tina. After a while, we see Josh sitting with Tina, and she informs him that after their vacation ends, they will travel to Singapore. At that moment, we see Rory, who grabs a piece of ice and heads into the sea without noticing the shadow of a giant creature passing beneath him. We see one of the swimmers in the water suddenly being dragged, leaving nothing but bloodstains on the water's surface. The lifeguard notices what happened to the swimmer from afar, activates the alarm, and informs everyone there is no shark in the water. Josh notices his friend is still in the water, so he takes a jet ski and rushes in to save him. Tina warns him not to go into the water while being terrified for her brother, who is still in the sea. Josh tries to warn his friend from afar about the shark in the water, but Rory doesn't hear him. Suddenly, a shark jumps from beneath Rory's surfboard, breaking it and throwing Rory into the water. Josh immediately grabs his friend's hand and tries to pull him onto the jet ski, but unfortunately, the shark drags Rory underwater and kills him, leaving only bloodstains behind. A year after this incident, we see Josh at home. Josh and Tina have separated because Josh couldn't shake off the guilt of not being able to save his friend. Josh, while making breakfast and watching TV, hears news about shark attacks on beaches, which saddens him as it reminds him of Rory. After breakfast, Josh heads out to work. While walking, he notices birds flying unusually from the direction of the sea. Elsewhere, we see two suspicious-looking individuals in a car planning to rob a store. However, upon seeing police everywhere, they decide to change their target. Back to Josh. He arrives at his workplace, which is a hypermarket. We see a customer named Jamie stealing items from the shelves, but the security guard is keeping a close eye on her. Noticing the guard, Jamie runs and hides in the surveillance room, where she coincidentally finds her boyfriend, Ryan, working there. She runs to him and hugs him. Suddenly, the manager and security enter the room. The manager demands to search Jamie, but Ryan offers to deduct whatever she stole from his salary. The manager shocks Ryan by revealing that he's already fired and that both of them must stay until the police arrive. Meanwhile, Josh is working as usual and chatting with his colleague Naomi when he hears a familiar voice. He turns to see Tina, whom he hasn't seen in a year, shopping with her new boyfriend Steven. Josh talks briefly with Tina before being ordered by the manager to clean the bathrooms. Josh complies and heads to the restroom. The two individuals from earlier, planning to rob a store, arrive at the hypermarket's garage. One of them is named Dewey, and the other is Dean. We see Jamie's father, Todd, who is also a police officer, taking his daughter to leave. On their way to the garage, he lectures her about improving her morals and not stealing. But Jamie, uninterested, gets into the car. Before Todd gets in, he notices one of the criminals entering the hypermarket armed. Todd grabs a weapon from his car and follows the man. The armed man, Dean, enters the manager's office unnoticed and points his gun at the manager, demanding all the money from the safe. The manager shows him the safe, revealing it's empty. Dean takes the manager out, threatening him with the gun to get the money from the cashier. Todd observes this and sets a trap, managing to hold Dean at gunpoint. However, Dewey appears, holding a hostage. Meanwhile, Ryan and Jamie are in the car garage. Ryan is upset about losing his only job, making Jamie feel guilty. Jamie enters the hypermarket to talk to the manager. Josh, in the restroom, notices the water pressure fluctuating. Suddenly, he hears a gunshot and rushes out. Josh sees Dewey has killed someone and has Tina at gunpoint. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake and a tsunami strikes the city, flooding everything, including the hypermarket. Ryan, in his car, is hit by the tsunami, as are a couple in a nearby car. Once the tsunami subsides, the hypermarket is destroyed. Josh emerges from the water and finds a very small number of survivors. Josh helps Todd and Steven out of the water and tries to remove the metal stuck in Todd's leg. Josh asks Steven to search for supplies to stop Todd's bleeding. Meanwhile, Jamie sees her father, and Josh quickly helps her out of the water. She remembers her boyfriend, Ryan, is in the garage and wants to save him, but Dean tells her everyone in the garage must be dead. Jamie mourns Ryan. Josh finds Tina in the water, shocked by the incident. He pulls her to the shelves with the other survivors. Before climbing up, Tina sees a body being dragged underwater but can't understand what caused it. Steven, searching for supplies, finds another survivor. Back in the garage, which is now completely flooded, we see the couple's car remains dry, but they are terrified as they sense movement nearby. They look behind them and are horrified to see a corpse. Ryan is still alive in his car, which hasn't been flooded. He decides to break the window to escape and search for survivors. Ryan successfully gets out and calls for survivors, but no one responds. Suddenly, something moves beneath him, causing him to fall into the water. Terrified, Ryan quickly gets out of the water, unsure of what just happened. Above, Josh tends to Todd's wound and informs everyone that the water level is gradually rising. and if he stayed here, he would die, and they needed to find a solution. Josh told them he couldn't go look for an exit and leave Toot in that state, so Josh asked if anyone would volunteer to look for an exit. Tina and Steven went down and started searching. They suggested to Josh that he go check the cargo exit to see if there was a door there to get them out, but Toot intervened and made it clear he wasn't going anywhere. Toot ordered Bob, the security guy, to go and check. In the car garage, the couple was still inside their car, terrified, while their dog was fixated on something in the water. Ryan climbed onto the cars and noticed something moving in the water. Josh also noticed something moving beneath them in the water and warned everyone to get out of the water immediately. Steven and Tina quickly got out of the water, but Bob couldn't make it in time. Suddenly, something pulled him under the water, and everyone was terrified when they heard Bob screaming. Then, out of nowhere, Bob emerged from the water, calling for Jimmy to help him. Jimmy tried her best to save him, but something under the water devoured his entire body, leaving only his arm in Jimmy's hand. Of course, everyone was horrified by the scene, but the bigger problem was that they discovered the creature was 7 meters long, which confirmed to Josh that it was a shark. He warned everyone. Back to Ryan, who was looking for any escape route. Meanwhile, the couple in the car was arguing. Swell asked his wife, Hazel, for her high heel to break the glass, but instead, Hazel opened the sunroof for him. Swell climbed out through the sunroof and found Ryan. He asked Ryan to help them, and they started discussing a plan to reach each other. But suddenly, Hazel warned her husband about the shark, so Swell quickly got back into the car and sat beside his wife. The shark hit the car window, breaking part of it. Meanwhile, the group on the upper floor was brainstorming solutions to their current predicament. But another problem arose when the electrical wire fell into the water. If it touched the water, they would all die. Josh informed them that the power switch was in the warehouse ahead of them. Josh was about to go into the water to turn off the power, but Tina stopped him and volunteered Steven instead. Steven had a plan. Before entering the water, Steven covered himself entirely in metal to prevent the shark from attacking him. He also placed a breathing tube in his mouth and descended into the water. Josh held onto the tube as Steven moved forward. Steven encountered the shark, which stared at him for a while before eventually leaving him alone. Steven reached the warehouse where the power switch was located. However, the breathing tube was too short, and Steven had to remove it to move forward and turn off the power. Steven decided to remove the tube, pulled the power switch, and successfully cut off the electricity. But when he tried to surface for air, the metal he was wearing prevented him from rising. Steven decided to surrender and drowned. When Tina learned of Steven's death, she sat down in despair. Jimmy tried to console her, but Tina was deeply saddened by Steven's loss. Naomi and Dean managed to create a spear for self-defense. Meanwhile, Josh opened the ventilation in the ceiling, thinking it might be their exit. Ryan devised a plan to lure the shark near them. He cut off a dead body's arm next to him and put it in the water. The shark smelled the blood and went away from the couple's car and headed towards the blood, which made Suel and Hazar quickly get out of the car and swim quickly in the water. When the shark saw them swimming in the water, it turned to them around again. At the last moment, before the shark ate them, Suel was able to get Hazar out to another car that was upside down in the water. Before he came out and saw the shark coming very close to him, he threw Heiser's dog and quickly got out next to Heiser on the car. On the second floor, the group brought a rope and threw it over the ventilation hole. He forced Ulysses to be the one to get out of the hole. They raised Josh's hands with the rope, and Ulysses reached the hole and was able to open it. But he finds a very large number of spiders inside, and Ulysses is terrified and was about to fall into the water, but he regains his balance and keeps holding onto the rope. Suddenly, a shark jumps out of the water onto Ulysses' body and splits it in two. Ulysses' body falls into the water, and Tina falls too, but before the shark eats her, she manages to get out. Of course, after that, all of them. They were terrified. We went back to Ryan and the couple in the garage. Heather was very upset that Soul threw her dog and finished it off. Soul tried to justify his position, but his wife remained upset. Ryan was trying to find a way out anywhere, but he did not find one. Ryan decided to move on. The pipes in the ceiling, and before he goes up to the pipes, the flashlight he has with him falls into the water, so Ryan quickly goes down and brings it up. Ryan makes his plan and moves on the pipes in the ceiling, and the shark was right under him, waiting for him to fall and not make any wrong move. And suddenly Ryan's leg slips, and he was about to fall, and unfortunately Ryan actually falls in the water. The shark couldn't eat him because Suel and Hazar rescued him. They caught up with it before it was eaten and took it to the car. While it was going up, Rayan and his wife accidentally slipped backwards and fell into the water. His wife and Rayan couldn't catch up with it, and the shark was cutting him in front of them. With the group on the floor above, they were very desperate and waiting for death, but Dadina was the only one. The one who kept encouraging them and giving them the determination to finish off the shark needed a hook from the one in the water near the cashier, so Todd volunteered to go and get it. But Jamie couldn't let her father go down, so she immediately jumped into the water. The shark was behind Jimmy, but Jimmy was faster than him. Jimmy managed to enter the area where the cashier was sitting, and when the shark tried to attack her, she hit him on the head and made him move away. Jimmy brought the hook and stuck it in the religious rope and stuck it in a big piece of meat so they could use it as bait for the shark. After that, he pulled the hook and they were able to get it out of the water. After a while, Josh starts making the bait and hook for the shark, and Tina notices her brother Rory's chain around his neck. He tells her that he never forgot his friend since the day he died, and that he felt guilty all this time. He apologizes to her for leaving her, and she had nothing to do with anything. After that, they throw the hook with the meat into the water. The shark passes by the meat and does not pay any attention to it, and one of the group, named Kirby, said that the shark definitely wants human flesh. Suddenly, Kirby pulls a gun out of his pocket, grabs Naomi, and threatens to kill anyone who comes near him. Kirby reveals his knowledge of Dean and turns out to be Dodie, the criminal who was supposed to be dead in the water. It is revealed that he switched clothes with a corpse to avoid being identified. Dodie throws Naomi into the water for the shark and raises his weapon at Josh to keep him away. But suddenly, Dodie is stabbed from behind with a spear, and it turns out that Dean is the one who did it. Dean quickly pulls Naomi out of the water, attaches the hook to Dodie's body, and throws him in Naomi's place. The shark approaches and eats Dodie. The plan succeeds, and the hook gets lodged inside the shark's mouth, preventing it from swimming after them. Meanwhile, Ryan and Hazer are still on the car when Hazer's dog suddenly appears behind them, alive, and swims to Hazer. She is overjoyed that the dog is still alive. Ryan then gets an idea, grabs a metal rod, and starts banging it on the pipes. The sound reaches the group on the floor above them, and Jamie realizes it's Ryan and that he's alive. Jamie jumps into the water to save Ryan, and Josh jumps in after her to catch up. Ted asks Josh to look after his daughter, and Tina says her goodbyes as well. Josh gives her her brother's necklace before going after Jamie. They close the door near the group to prevent the water level from rising further, and open the door to the garage, allowing the water by the stairs to flow into the garage. Jamie finds Ryan, and Ryan and Hazer warn her about the shark. Josh quickly grabs Jamie, and they climb onto one of the cars at the last moment. It turns out to be Jamie's father's car, and she informs Josh that there's a rifle in the car they can use to kill the shark. Josh retrieves the rifle, loads it, and heads into the water to confront the shark. As the shark approaches, opening its mouth, Josh manages to kill it just in time. Meanwhile, the other group reaches the exit, but finds it blocked by a car. Dean connects the cars to electricity to trigger an explosion, but an earthquake occurs, caused by the shark struggling to free itself from the hook. The shark manages to dislodge the hook from its mouth, and Josh notices this, deciding to kill it himself. He warns everyone to get out of the water. When Josh pulls the trigger of the rifle, it doesn't fire due to water damage. Just before the shark reaches him, Josh jumps onto the pipes on the ceiling, hanging onto them. He pulls out his electric taser and uses it on the shark, electrocuting and killing it. Dean activates the electricity in the wires, causing the cars blocking the exit to explode. The cars are destroyed, and the exit is cleared. The group escapes and witnesses the destruction in the city caused by the tsunami, which has left everything in ruins. Suddenly, helicopters appear overhead, rescuing the survivors. With that, the group manages to save themselves and escape alive from the sharks in the area. And this brings us to the end of our film. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video. Goodbye.